Why People Betray You. The Hidden Psychology Behind It. Written and published by Echo Elevate. Introduction. Betrayal changes you. It shakes your trust. It breaks your rhythm. And in one painful moment, it can make you question everything you knew about someone. This book begins with a simple truth. People do not betray you by accident. There is always a reason, a motive, a fear, a hidden story inside their mind that you often never get to see. The purpose of this book is to bring that hidden story to light, to help you understand why people hurt the ones they claim to care about, to show you the deeper psychology behind their choices, and to guide you toward a place of clarity, confidence and emotional strength. As you listen, you will learn how human needs shape behavior, how insecurity can twist intentions, how ego, fear, desire, and past wounds influence loyalty, and how you can recognize the early warning signs before trust is broken. This is not a book about blaming others. It is a book about understanding human nature, so you can protect your heart without closing it. It is about seeing people more clearly. It is about seeing yourself more clearly. And it is about reclaiming your power after experiences that once left you confused or hurt. You will discover why some betrayals feel sudden, even when the signs were there. You will learn why some people choose comfort over loyalty. And you will understand why betrayal often reveals more about a person's inner world than about your worth. Each chapter will take you deeper into the patterns behind betrayal. You will hear the psychology, you will hear the emotions, and you will hear the practical steps that help you heal, rebuild trust, and move forward with strength. By the end of this journey you will see betrayal with new eyes. You will understand it. You will rise above it, and you will carry a clearer sense of who deserves a place in your life. So take a breath, settle in, and let us begin this powerful exploration into why people betray you, and how understanding the truth can set you free. Chapter 1. What betrayal really is. Betrayal is one of the deepest emotional wounds a person can experience. It is more than a broken promise. It is more than a moment of disappointment. Betrayal strikes at the core of your trust. It takes something that once felt safe and turns it into a source of pain. And because of this, betrayal often changes the way you see people, and even the way you see yourself. To understand betrayal, we must first understand what trust truly means. Trust is the silent agreement you build with someone over time. You believe they will protect your feelings. You believe they will respect your relationship. You believe they will act with honesty, even when no one is watching. When betrayal happens, that agreement is shattered. The mind begins to question everything. Did I miss the signs? Was I not enough? Was the relationship ever real? These questions rise up not because you are weak, but because betrayal confronts your deepest need for safety and connection. To see betrayal clearly, imagine a simple story. A friend promises to support you during an important moment in your life. It could be a presentation, an interview, or a personal challenge. You count on them. You feel reassured because they have always been there. But when the moment arrives, they do not show up. Later you learn they chose something more convenient or enjoyable instead. On the surface this seems like a small event, but the pain you feel is not from their absence. It is from the broken bond. They made a choice that dismissed your trust. This is betrayal in its simplest form. It is not always dramatic. It is often subtle. It is the quiet breaking of something you believed was secure. Betrayal can also come in far heavier forms. A partner who hides the truth. A colleague who takes credit for your work. A family member who shares something private that you trusted them with. These moments cut deeper because they involve your identity, your future, and your emotional foundation. They shake your confidence. They create doubt not only in others but also in your own judgment. Why does betrayal hurt so much? Because it attacks three core human needs: the need to feel valued, the need to feel safe, and the need to feel understood. When someone you trust acts against these needs, it feels like a personal rejection. Your mind interprets the act as a message that you do not matter, even when that is not the truth. The emotional impact feels real. Another way to understand betrayal is to see it as a tear in your internal map of the world. You build your life on certain assumptions. For example, you assume your partner cares about you. You assume your friend respects your boundaries. You assume your coworker will act fairly. These assumptions guide your behavior and help you feel grounded. Betrayal removes one of those assumptions without warning. It is like walking on a bridge you believe is strong, only to feel it crack beneath you. The fall is sudden. The shock is intense. And even after you rise again, you walk more carefully. Betrayal also reveals something important about human relationships. We often believe that trust is built through big moments. But in truth, trust is built through small and consistent actions. A kind word, a shared secret, a promise fulfilled. These small acts form the roots of trust. So when betrayal happens, it feels like those roots are being ripped out all at once. This explains why even minor betrayals can leave a strong emotional mark. Let us look at another example from everyday life. Imagine you are part of a team working toward a shared goal. You give your best effort. You support others. You stay loyal to the plan. Then one day you discover that a team member has been criticizing your work behind your back. They act friendly when you are around, but they undermine you when you are not there. This is betrayal too, not because of the criticism, but because of the deception. They created two versions of themselves, one for you, one for others. The split between these versions is what makes the betrayal feel sharp and personal. Now it is important to understand that betrayal is not always intentional. Some people act out of weakness, some act out of fear, some act out of confusion or pressure. But regardless of the motive, the emotional impact remains real. Your trust breaks, your expectations change, and your sense of security needs time to heal. As we explore betrayal deeper in the next chapters, we will uncover the psychology behind these choices. But for now, the goal of this chapter is simple: to give betrayal a clear definition, to help you understand that betrayal is not just an action. It is an emotional event that shifts your inner world. It is the collision between what you believed and what actually happened. Here is the key truth to carry forward. Betrayal is not proof that you trusted too much. It is proof that someone else did not value the trust you gave. Your ability to trust is a strength, not a flaw. Your openness is not the problem. The problem is the choice the other person made. As you move to the next chapter, remember this: understanding betrayal begins with clarity, healing begins with insight, and power returns when you learn to see betrayal not as a judgment of your worth, but as a message about someone else's limits. This is what betrayal really is: a crack that reveals the truth, a moment that wakes you up, and the beginning of a deeper understanding of human behavior. Chapter 2: The Roots of Human Behavior. To understand why people betray, we must first understand what shapes human behavior. Every action has a root. Every choice has a story behind it. People do not wake up one day and decide to break trust for no reason. Something pushes them, something pulls them, and often these forces are hidden from the surface. Human behavior begins with basic needs: the need for security, the need for acceptance, the need for power or control, the need for freedom. These needs guide people in ways they may not even recognize. When a person feels that one of these needs is threatened, they may act out of fear or self-protection, and sometimes that action becomes betrayal. Imagine a person who fears losing their position at work. They notice that a coworker is performing well and gaining attention. Instead of collaborating, they begin spreading rumors or taking credit for work that is not theirs. They are not acting from logic. They are acting from fear. Their fear whispers, "If I do nothing, I will lose what I have." So they betray to regain a sense of control. Their behavior is rooted not in malice but in insecurity. Another common root is desire. Human beings are driven by wants: the desire to feel admired, the desire to succeed, the desire to experience something new or exciting. When desire becomes stronger than values, betrayal can occur. Someone may break a promise because they are chasing a feeling they believe will make them happier. They convince themselves that the short-term reward is worth the long-term damage. But this belief comes from a deeper internal imbalance, not from strength of character. There is also the root of identity. People behave based on who they believe they are. If someone sees themselves as a victim, they may betray others before they get hurt. If someone believes they are superior, they may betray because they think the rules do not apply to them. If someone feels unworthy, they may sabotage relationships out of fear of being abandoned. Identity shapes intention. Intention shapes behavior. So when betrayal happens, it often reflects the betrayer's identity, not the person who was betrayed. Let us look at a real-world example. Consider a partner who hides financial problems from someone they love. They keep secrets. They lie. They avoid conversations. At first it seems like a simple breach of honesty, but the root goes deeper. Perhaps they fear judgment. Perhaps they feel ashamed of their mistakes. Perhaps they grew up in an environment where asking for help was seen as weakness. Their betrayal is guided by an old wound, not a lack of affection. This does not excuse the behavior, but it helps you understand its source. Human behavior is also shaped by emotional needs. Some people need constant validation. Some need stability. Some need excitement. When these needs are unmet, people can act irrationally. For example, a friend may betray your trust because they crave the approval of someone else. They share your secret, not because they want to harm you, but because they want to feel important in front of others. Their need for recognition becomes stronger than their loyalty. This is another root, a fragile sense of self. There is another powerful root, learned behavior. People repeat what they observe. If someone grew up in an environment where loyalty was weak, they may struggle to value trust. If they saw manipulation and deceit used as survival tools, they may continue those patterns without realizing it. Adults often carry the lessons of childhood into relationships. Some lessons are empowering, some are harmful, and those harmful lessons can lead to betrayal. Consider the story of a young man raised in a home filled with broken promises. He learned early that trust is temporary, that people say one thing but do another. As an adult, he becomes charming but unreliable. He makes commitments but avoids responsibility. He betrays not because he wants to hurt others, but because he never learned how to build dependable bonds. His roots were shaped long before he met the people he would later disappoint. Understanding these roots does not mean accepting betrayal. It means seeing the full picture. It means recognizing that people act from their inner world, not yours. When someone betrays you, they are following the script written by their fears, their desires, their wounds, or their upbringing. You are not the cause. You are simply the place where their unresolved patterns surface. There is power in this insight, because when you understand the roots of human behavior, you stop taking betrayal as a personal failure. You stop blaming yourself for someone else's choices. You stop carrying emotions that never belonged to you. To protect yourself, you must learn to see these roots early. Listen to how someone speaks about their past. Notice how they handle stress. Observe how they treat boundaries. Watch how they respond to honesty. These small signals reveal the deeper layers of their behavior, and when you understand those layers, you are no longer surprised by their actions. As we move into the next chapter, we will explore one of the strongest forces behind betrayal: self-interest. You will learn how people protect themselves first, even at the cost of hurting others. But before we go there, remember this key insight: behavior grows from roots. And when you can see the roots, you can understand the actions, not to excuse them but to free yourself from their emotional weight. Chapter 3: The Psychology of Self-Interest. Every person carries an inner compass that guides their choices. Sometimes that compass points toward loyalty, sometimes it points toward comfort, and often it points toward self-interest. To understand betrayal on a deeper level, we must understand this powerful force. Self-interest is the quiet voice inside every mind that asks, "What is best for me right now?" It is natural, it is human, and when it becomes stronger than empathy or values, it can lead to harmful decisions. Self-interest begins with survival instincts. From early human history, survival meant protecting yourself first, finding safety, gathering resources, avoiding danger. The instinct to put yourself first is built into your biology. Most people do not betray because they want to cause pain. They betray because in that moment, they believe they are protecting their needs, their comfort, their reputation, their desires, their sense of control. Imagine someone facing the possibility of losing their job. They fear failure. They fear judgment. They fear losing their identity. In a moment of panic, they may shift blame onto a coworker. They may hide mistakes or manipulate information to appear stronger. In their mind, they are saving themselves. In reality, they are betraying someone who trusted them. The action is harmful, but the root is fear mixed with self-preservation. Self-interest can also arise from desire. Human beings are drawn to pleasure, recognition, and opportunity. When desire becomes urgent, it can push people to ignore the impact of their actions. Think of someone in a committed relationship who seeks validation outside the partnership. They may feel unnoticed or unappreciated. They may crave excitement or admiration. Instead of communicating their needs, they choose a shortcut that satisfies their self-interest, but breaks trust in the process. Again, the act is harmful, but the motivation is the search for emotional fulfillment. There is a story that illustrates this clearly. A man named Daniel worked hard to build a small business with his friend. Both shared the same dream. Both invested time and energy. But when a large company approached Daniel with an offer to buy the business, he faced a choice: share the offer with his partner, or take the deal alone. He convinced himself that he deserved more because he carried more stress. He told himself that the opportunity might disappear if he waited. His self-interest twisted the truth. He betrayed the partnership to gain personal advantage. The partnership ended. The friendship collapsed. And the success he gained came with a heavy emotional cost. This is how self-interest operates. It does not always shout. It whispers arguments that feel reasonable. It frames betrayal as a necessary decision. It tells the person, "You will lose if you do not take action now." Self-interest can make harmful choices feel justified. Another layer of self-interest involves social image. People are deeply sensitive to how they are perceived. They want to appear competent. They want to appear loyal. They want to appear strong. But when their image is at risk, they may act to protect it, even at the expense of others. A friend may lie to avoid embarrassment. A partner may hide mistakes to avoid conflict. A leader may distort facts to maintain authority. These choices stem from the self-directed need to shield their identity. Self-interest is also influenced by emotional scarcity. Some people feel there is not enough to go around. Not enough attention. Not enough success. Not enough love. So they compete for what they believe is limited. This scarcity mindset pushes them to guard resources tightly, to take more than they need, to betray when they fear losing what they have gained. Consider a simple example from childhood. Imagine a child with one toy that everyone wants to play with. The child hides the toy, even from friends they trust. They believe that sharing means losing. As adults, some people carry the same mindset. They hoard opportunities. They withhold information. They compete even when collaboration would help everyone. And at times they betray to stay ahead. It is not malice. It is fear built from scarcity. Understanding self-interest does not mean accepting harmful behavior, but it helps you see the emotional mechanics behind betrayal. It helps you realize that many people act based on what they think they must protect. They betray not because you are unworthy, but because they feel insecure about their own worth. There is a powerful insight here. People do not always choose what is right. They choose what feels safer. They choose what seems easier. They choose what benefits them in the moment. This is why betrayal can feel sudden. It often happens at the crossroads between someone's immediate desire and their long-term values. And when the pressure is high, desire often wins. So what can you learn from this? First, recognize that self-interest is present in everyone, including yourself. Understanding this helps you see people more clearly. It helps you set boundaries that protect you from reckless behavior. It helps you stop assuming that loyalty alone will prevent betrayal. Loyalty must be paired with self-awareness, courage, and emotional maturity. Without these, self-interest can override even strong bonds. Second, notice how people behave when their needs are threatened. Do they stay honest when fear rises? Do they communicate clearly when they feel insecure? Do they make choices based on values or convenience? These moments reveal whether someone's self-interest will one day cross the line. As we move into the next chapter, we will explore another root of betrayal, the clash of personal values. Values shape loyalty. Values shape integrity. And when values do not align, betrayal becomes not only possible but predictable. Chapter 4. When values do not match. Every relationship, whether personal or professional, is built on a foundation of values. Values are the inner rules that guide how a person behaves. They shape what someone believes is right or wrong. They influence how they treat others, how they make decisions, and how they respond to conflict. When two people share similar values, trust grows easily. But when values do not match, betrayal becomes far more likely. A value is not the same as a preference. Preferences are surface-level choices. Values are deeper. They define character. For example, a preference is liking a certain type of food. A value is believing honesty matters, even when the truth is difficult. A preference is choosing a hobby. A value is believing in loyalty, responsibility, or respect. Values are the silent code behind every major decision a person makes. When values clash, relationships begin to fracture. One person believes in transparency. The other believes in avoiding discomfort. One prioritizes integrity. The other prioritizes convenience. One believes promises should be honored. The other treats promises as flexible. These differences create tension that may not appear at first, but becomes obvious during stressful moments. Let us look at a simple yet powerful example. A woman named Sarah trusted her business partner, Leo. They agreed to run their company with fairness and equal responsibility. For Sarah, integrity was a core value. For Leo, ambition was the driving force. When the company began to grow, Leo started making decisions without consulting her. He cut corners. He made deals behind her back. He told himself he was doing it for the business. But to Sarah, these actions were deep violations of trust. Their values did not match. Integrity versus ambition, transparency versus control. Because their values were misaligned, betrayal became almost inevitable. This type of conflict is not always dramatic. Sometimes it appears in everyday situations. Imagine a friendship where one person values respect and emotional safety. They communicate clearly. They keep promises. They protect the bond. The other friend values freedom and spontaneity above all else. They cancel plans without notice. They forget commitments. They avoid serious conversations. Neither person is wrong, but the mismatch in values leads to repeated disappointment. Eventually, one of them feels betrayed, even though the other never intended harm. Values also reveal themselves in how people handle temptation. Take the example of a relationship. One partner believes loyalty means unwavering emotional and physical commitment. The other defines loyalty more loosely. They believe small secrets or private interactions with others are harmless. When these views come into conflict, betrayal often occurs because they are following different definitions of what loyalty means. The foundation cracks because their values are not aligned. Another important truth about values is that they remain consistent over time. People may change habits or interests, but core values rarely shift. This is why early warning signs often appear long before betrayal happens. If someone dismisses other people's feelings, breaks small promises, or avoids accountability, these behaviors usually reflect deeper values, and those values will eventually shape larger decisions. Here is a story that illustrates this clearly. A young man named Melik grew up believing that responsibility was essential. His parents taught him that a person's word is their bond. He carried this belief into adulthood. When he met his friend Jordan, he was drawn to Jordan's charm, confidence and energy. But over time, Melik noticed small inconsistencies. Jordan often exaggerated stories. He borrowed things and returned them late. He took shortcuts at work and laughed about it. Melik ignored these signs at first. He believed they were harmless. But when a major opportunity came that involved both of them, Jordan acted in his own interest and left Melik out. Melik felt betrayed. But the truth was simple. Jordan's values had been visible from the beginning. They simply did not match Melik's. Values determine how people behave when no one is watching. They determine how someone reacts to pressure or stress. They determine whether a person stands by their principles or abandons them when circumstances change. This is why mismatched values often lead to betrayal. Not because someone is intentionally cruel, but because they are guided by a different internal rulebook. Understanding this can change how you see relationships. Instead of judging people by what they say, you begin to watch what they consistently do. Instead of assuming loyalty, you observe how they behave in small moments. Instead of ignoring early red flags, you recognize them as signs of deeper value differences. This chapter offers an important insight. People do not betray because they lack emotions. They betray because their values allow certain actions that yours do not. Someone who values personal gain above commitment may lie when it benefits them. Someone who values comfort above honesty may hide the truth to avoid discomfort. Someone who values approval above respect may betray to impress others. In each case, values not only influence choices, they justify them. Recognizing mismatched values is not about judgment. It is about clarity. It helps you choose the right people to trust. It helps you protect your emotional well-being, and it helps you avoid situations where betrayal is likely to occur. As you move forward, pay attention to patterns rather than promises. Watch how people treat boundaries. Notice how they act in stressful situations. Observe whether their actions match their words. These small observations reveal the values guiding their behavior. In the next chapter, we will explore another major cause of betrayal: emotional weakness and impulse. You will learn how people lose control, make reckless choices and damage relationships in moments of vulnerability. But before we go there, remember this truth: betrayal is not always a surprise. When values do not match, the cracks are there long before the break. Chapter 5. Emotional weakness and impulse. Not all betrayals are planned. Some happen in a single moment. A moment when emotions become stronger than judgment. A moment when impulse takes control and pushes someone into a choice they later regret. Understanding emotional weakness is essential, because many betrayals are born not from intention, but from a lack of inner strength. Emotional weakness is not the absence of feelings. It is the inability to manage those feelings. A person who cannot regulate fear, desire, anger, or insecurity is more likely to make reckless decisions. When emotions surge, logic becomes distant, consequences fade, and self-control weakens. In this state, betrayal becomes far easier. Imagine someone who struggles with insecurity. They constantly fear abandonment. They feel unworthy even when others support them. One day, they feel ignored by their partner. Instead of communicating, they act impulsively. They seek comfort elsewhere. They share private details with someone who feels more attentive in that moment. Later they realize the damage they created. But in the heat of emotional weakness, that momentary relief felt more important than loyalty. Impulse acts like a sudden storm. It arrives quickly and disrupts everything around it. People who lack emotional resilience often chase whatever feeling seems strongest. They follow desire without considering the cost. They react to fear without pausing. They lash out during stress because the pressure feels unbearable. This is why emotional immaturity is one of the strongest predictors of betrayal. Let us explore a real-world example. A man named Victor had a close friend, Liam. They trusted each other deeply. But Victor carried a strong sense of jealousy. Whenever Liam succeeded, Victor felt threatened. One day, while talking with mutual colleagues, Victor impulsively revealed a private mistake Liam once made. It was not planned. It was driven by a sudden wave of insecurity. For a moment, Victor felt powerful, but as soon as the words left his mouth, he felt guilt. The damage was done. The friendship cracked because Victor could not control an emotional impulse. This is the essence of emotional weakness. It makes temporary feelings seem like permanent truths. It convinces people that they must act now, even when waiting would bring clarity. It makes small frustrations feel enormous, and small temptations feel irresistible. Many betrayals also come from emotional overwhelm. When someone is stressed, afraid or ashamed, the mind looks for quick escape. Quick escapes often lead to poor decisions. A person might hide information to avoid conflict. They might lie to protect their image. They might point blame at someone else to relieve pressure. These actions come from fear, not strategy. The betrayal is a symptom of their inability to face their emotions with strength. There is another form of emotional weakness that often leads to betrayal: the desire for instant gratification. Human beings naturally enjoy quick rewards. But emotionally weak individuals rely on them. They seek pleasure, comfort, or validation without considering long-term consequences. This is common in romantic betrayal. A moment of attention, a moment of excitement, or a moment of feeling admired can overpower commitment. The betrayal happens not because they stopped caring, but because their emotions overpowered their judgment. Consider a young woman named Elena. She was in a stable relationship, but she often doubted her worth. When someone new complimented her in a way that felt deep and sincere, she felt alive. She did not plan to betray her partner, but in a moment of vulnerability, she allowed her emotions to take over. Later, she felt devastated by her actions. Her emotional weakness made her chase a feeling she believed she needed, even though it cost her the trust of someone she loved. Emotional weakness also shows up in anger. Some betrayals happen in moments of rage. Words spill out that were never meant to be spoken. Secrets are revealed out of spite. Actions are taken that feel justified in the moment, but destructive afterward. When anger becomes stronger than compassion, betrayal becomes a weapon. This leads to an important insight. Emotionally strong people are not those who feel less. They are those who manage their feelings with awareness. They pause before reacting. They understand that intense emotions pass. They consider the future impact of their choices. Emotionally weak people feel the same emotions, but instead of controlling them, they are controlled by them. To protect yourself, it is helpful to recognize signs of emotional weakness in others. Watch how someone behaves under stress. Notice how they respond to frustration. See whether they take responsibility for their emotions or blame others. Someone who cannot manage their own feelings will struggle to honor commitments when emotions become intense. There is one final lesson to understand. Impulse does not remove responsibility. Even when betrayal happens in a moment of emotional weakness, the consequences are real. The pain is real. The loss of trust is real. Understanding why the betrayal happened may give you insight, but it does not erase the impact. It simply allows you to see the event without blaming yourself for someone else's lack of self-control. As we move into the next chapter, we will explore the role of ego and pride. While emotional weakness pulls people into impulsive choices, ego pushes them into self-serving actions. Together, these forces reveal much about why people break trust. But for now, remember this truth. Impulse may be sudden, but its roots run deep. When someone cannot master their emotions, they cannot be trusted to protect your heart. Chapter 6. The role of ego and pride. Ego and pride are powerful forces. They can motivate people to grow, achieve, and overcome challenges. But when these forces become too strong, they distort judgment. They create blind spots. They push people to protect their image instead of their relationships. And in many cases, ego and pride become seeds of betrayal. Ego is the part of the mind that says, I must look strong, I must win, I must not be wrong. Pride is the voice that says, I deserve more, I am better than this, I should not have to admit anything. These beliefs can shape behavior in ways that others cannot see until the damage is done. People with inflated ego often break trust to maintain their sense of superiority. They hide mistakes instead of owning them. They manipulate situations so they appear more capable. They dismiss feedback because it feels like an attack on their identity. When their ego is threatened, they may betray to gain control or protect their image. Consider a workplace example. A manager named Laura prided herself on being the most knowledgeable person on the team. When a younger colleague proposed a new idea that impressed upper management, Laura felt threatened. Her ego whispered, "If this idea succeeds, you will lose your position of authority." Instead of supporting the colleague, she quietly sabotaged the project. She gave incomplete information. She delayed approvals. She highlighted flaws that did not exist. She believed she was protecting her leadership role, but she was betraying the trust of her team. Her ego, not her logic, guided her actions. Pride works differently, but the result is often similar. Pride prevents people from apologizing. Pride prevents them from admitting wrongdoing. Pride convinces them that they are above accountability. When pride becomes rigid, relationships begin to weaken. Small conflicts turn into major battles. Simple misunderstandings turn into emotional distance, and betrayal becomes easier, because pride refuses to reconsider its beliefs. Picture a couple arguing about a decision that affected them both. One partner realizes they were wrong, but their pride refuses to let them say it. Days pass. The silence grows. The relationship becomes tense. Instead of apologizing, the partner pulls away and shares their frustrations with someone outside the relationship. They reveal intimate details in search of validation. This emotional betrayal begins not because they stopped caring, but because pride would not allow vulnerability. Ego can also lead to betrayal when someone believes they deserve more than what they have. They may feel entitled to praise, attention, or power. When this entitlement is not met, they justify harmful actions. They tell themselves, "I should have this. I earned it." This mindset appears in friendships, relationships, and professional settings. Another story illustrates this well. A man named Adrian had a close-knit group of friends. They supported each other through difficult moments. But over time, Adrian began to believe he was the center of the group. He expected constant praise. He expected others to prioritize him. When a new member joined the group and began receiving admiration, Adrian felt overlooked. His pride was wounded. In response, he started spreading subtle rumors to regain attention. He damaged a friendship because his ego could not accept being equal rather than superior. One of the most dangerous aspects of ego and pride is denial. People influenced by these forces rarely see their own role in conflict. They blame others quickly. They justify harmful behavior. They rewrite the story to protect their identity. Denial becomes a shield, making true reflection impossible. And without reflection, betrayal becomes more likely. Ego also struggles with vulnerability. When people fear looking weak, they hide their true emotions. They avoid honest conversations. They remain distant. This emotional barrier harms relationships, even without obvious betrayal. But eventually, the distance creates resentment, and resentment leads to choices that break trust. Pride, on the other hand, creates unrealistic expectations. People driven by pride believe others should always understand them, always respect them, always adjust to their needs. When these expectations are not met, they feel offended. They react strongly. They may withdraw love, attention, or support as a form of punishment. This emotional manipulation is a quiet form of betrayal. Understanding ego and pride does not mean condemning the people who carry these traits. Everyone has an ego. Everyone experiences pride. But the difference lies in how people manage these forces. Emotionally mature individuals can acknowledge mistakes. They can listen to feedback. They can admit when they are wrong. They can apologize without feeling diminished. They have control over their ego rather than being controlled by it. When you observe someone who struggles with humility, honesty, or accountability, these traits are important warning signs. A fragile ego can make someone unpredictable. A rigid sense of pride can make someone dismissive of your feelings. These traits do not always lead to betrayal, but they often set the stage for it. There is a key lesson here. Betrayal does not come only from external pressures or sudden impulses. Sometimes it comes from the inner battles people have with themselves. The battle between truth and denial, between insecurity and false confidence, between the desire to connect and the fear of vulnerability. As you move into the next chapter, we will explore how manipulators use ego, insecurity, and charm to disguise their intentions. You will learn how hidden agendas develop, and how to recognize them early. But before we go there, remember this truth. When ego becomes louder than empathy and pride becomes stronger than humility, betrayal is not far behind. Chapter 7. Manipulators and Hidden Agendas. Not everyone who betrays you does so out of fear, impulse, or insecurity. Some people betray with intention. They observe. They calculate. They hide their motives behind charm, kindness, or innocent behavior. These are the manipulators. Individuals who use relationships as tools and people as pieces in their personal strategy. Manipulators are not always obvious. They rarely introduce themselves with malice. Instead, they study the people around them. They learn what you value. They learn what you fear. They learn what you want. Then they use that information to guide your decisions toward an outcome that benefits them. At the heart of manipulation is a hidden agenda, a desire for control, a desire for advantage, a desire to gain something, attention, money, status, power, or influence, without earning it honestly. For manipulators, relationships are not partnerships. They are opportunities. Let us begin with a simple example. A coworker named Ava always compliments you, always offers support, and always seems to be on your side. But her kindness is selective. It appears when she needs something, a project, a favor, or your silence about her mistakes. When you no longer serve her purpose, her warmth fades. You were never a friend in her eyes. You were a resource, a step toward a goal she never shared with you. Manipulators excel at disguises. Some appear caring. Some appear vulnerable. Some appear confident. But beneath the surface lies a pattern. They take more than they give, and they expect loyalty without offering it in return. There are several types of manipulators, and each uses a different strategy. One type is the charm manipulator. They win trust quickly with compliments, attention, and enthusiasm. They make you feel valued. They make you feel seen. But the charm is a strategy, not a genuine connection. Once you trust them, they begin to influence your choices. They ask for favors. They bend rules. They make you feel guilty when you hesitate. Their charm is a mask covering deeper motives. Another type is the victim manipulator. They gain power by appearing helpless. They tell stories of how others wronged them. They create emotional pressure, making you feel responsible for their well-being. You begin helping them out of empathy, but empathy becomes obligation, and obligation becomes control. When you eventually set boundaries, they portray you as the betrayer. Their hidden agenda is not connection. It is dependence and control. A third type is the strategic manipulator. These individuals are highly intelligent and calculated. They plan their moves. They gather information quietly. They identify weaknesses in others and use them subtly. They never act without purpose. You may not realize their agenda until the moment they achieve their goal. They betray without hesitation because in their mind the relationship was never real. Let us look at a story that reveals how manipulators operate. A man named Julian befriended a colleague, Mia. He listened to her frustrations, encouraged her ideas, and made her feel supported. Over time, Mia confided in him about her professional goals. Julian praised her vision. He offered advice, but behind the scenes, he used everything she shared to position himself for the same promotion she was aiming for. He used her ideas in meetings. He shared her plans with senior staff, as if they were his own. Mia believed she had a supportive friend. In truth, Julian had a hidden agenda from the beginning. Advancement. His betrayal was not impulsive. It was built step by step through manipulation. What makes manipulation so harmful is not just the betrayal itself. It is the confusion it creates. Manipulators twist reality. They make you question your intuition. They blur the line between kindness and control. You begin to doubt your judgment, not because you are weak, but because they are skilled at shaping perception. Manipulators often use three common tactics. First, they control information. They share selective truths. They hide important details. They exaggerate emotions to influence your response. The information they give is designed to push you toward decisions that benefit them. Second, they create emotional imbalance. They may shower you with affection one day and withdraw the next. This inconsistency creates dependency. You begin chasing their approval. You adjust your behavior to regain their warmth. This emotional cycle gives them power. Third, they use confusion. Manipulators rarely give direct answers. They avoid responsibility through vague language. They redirect blame. They question your memory or twist your words. This tactic, often called gaslighting, erodes your confidence over time. Here is a crucial insight. Manipulators do not view betrayal the same way you do. To them, betrayal is not a violation. It is a strategy, a necessary move in a larger plan. They justify everything through their hidden agenda. However, it is important to understand that manipulators rarely begin as villains. Many learned manipulation as a survival tool. Some grew up in environments where honesty was punished. Others learned that charm or deception was the only way to gain attention or love. Understanding this does not excuse their behavior, but it helps you see the psychological roots behind it. To protect yourself, the most important skill is awareness. Listen to patterns, not words. Watch how someone behaves when they do not need anything from you. Notice how they react when you say no. Observe whether their kindness is consistent or conditional. Manipulation always leaves clues, but you must be willing to see them. The goal of this chapter is not to make you suspicious of everyone. It is to help you recognize the difference between genuine connection and strategic behavior. Healthy relationships are built on shared respect. Manipulative ones are built on hidden motives. As you move into the next chapter, we will explore another important factor behind betrayal: how trauma, fear, and past wounds influence behavior. While manipulators betray through strategy, others do so through emotional scars they never learned to heal. Understanding this difference will help you see betrayal with clarity and compassion. Chapter 8. Trauma, Fear, and Past Wounds. Not all betrayals come from selfishness or manipulation. Some arise from deeper struggles hidden beneath the surface. Many people carry old wounds. They carry memories that shaped how they trust, how they love, and how they protect themselves. These past experiences influence their choices in powerful ways, often without their awareness. When these wounds are unhealed, they can quietly lead to betrayal. Trauma changes how a person sees the world. It rewires beliefs about safety, vulnerability, and connection. Someone who experienced betrayal in childhood may grow into an adult who fears intimacy. Someone who lived through emotional neglect may crave attention in unhealthy ways. Someone who endured criticism or abandonment may learn to distrust even the people who care about them. These wounds do not disappear with time. They influence behavior until they are understood and healed. Imagine a person who grew up in a home where secrets were common. They learned early that honesty brought conflict. They learned that emotions were unsafe. As an adult, they may hide their feelings out of habit. They may lie to avoid confrontation. They may distance themselves whenever relationships become meaningful. When they betray, it is not because they do not care. It is because vulnerability feels dangerous to them. Their betrayal is a shield created long before you entered their life. Fear plays a strong role here. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of judgment. When fear is intense, people behave defensively. They pull away before they can be hurt. They create emotional walls. They hold secrets. They sabotage relationships they secretly want to keep. This type of betrayal is often confusing because it is rooted in fear, not intention. Let us look at a story that illustrates this. A woman named Lena grew up with a father who would disappear for days without explanation. She never felt secure. She learned that love was unpredictable. In her adult relationships, she struggled to trust. Whenever she felt close to someone, fear surfaced. What if they leave too? To protect herself, she pushed people away. Sometimes she would end relationships abruptly. Sometimes she would avoid messages or cancel plans without explanation. Her partners felt betrayed. They thought she did not care, but in truth she cared deeply. Her betrayal came from an old wound that made closeness feel risky. Past wounds also influence how people respond to conflict. Someone who experienced harsh punishment as a child may avoid telling the truth as an adult. They fear consequences. They fear disappointment. They fear backlash. So they hide mistakes. They conceal their struggles. Their silence or dishonesty becomes a form of betrayal created by old survival patterns. There is another type of wound that leads to betrayal: the wound of inadequacy. People who feel unworthy often seek validation from others. They may pursue attention outside their relationship. They may exaggerate their achievements. They may betray to feel desired or admired, even for a moment. This is not about desire. It is about filling an internal void. They believe that external validation will heal them, even though it never does. Trauma also influences boundaries. Someone with an unstable past may not know how to set healthy boundaries. They may struggle to say no. They may overextend themselves. They may feel compelled to please others, even when it harms them. This can lead to betrayal when they promise more than they can handle, or when they give in to pressures they cannot resist. Their boundaries crumble under emotional weight, and trust is broken as a result. Another example highlights this clearly. A man named Ethan grew up with a controlling parent. He learned to avoid conflict by agreeing to everything. As an adult, he continued this pattern. He said yes, even when he meant no. He avoided expressing his true feelings. This led to betrayals, cancelled commitments, hidden resentments, and choices made behind others' backs. Ethan did not intend to hurt anyone. He simply never learned how to stand firm without fear. Understanding trauma-related betrayal requires compassion, but not blindness. It helps you see the reasons behind someone's actions, but it does not erase the impact. Your pain is still real. The broken trust still matters, but recognizing the wound behind the betrayal can help you detach from self-blame. You begin to see the truth. You were not the cause. You were the moment when their past resurfaced. One of the most important insights in this chapter is this: trauma does not excuse betrayal, but it explains why some people repeat destructive patterns, even when they do not want to. They live in survival mode. Their mind operates on old instructions. Until they heal, they will struggle to form healthy, stable connections. So how can you protect yourself? Pay attention to emotional patterns. Does the person avoid vulnerability? Do they shut down when conversations become serious? Do they become distant when relationship bonds deepen? Do they hide mistakes or withdraw during conflict? These may be signs of unhealed wounds. Healing is possible, but only if the person is aware of their patterns and willing to grow. Some people begin therapy. Some learn communication skills. Some take accountability and face their fears. Others remain stuck in old cycles, repeating them with every new relationship. As we move into the next chapter, we will explore how society and group dynamics influence betrayal. You will learn how pressure, status, reputation, and social approval shape decisions in ways that may surprise you. But for now, remember this truth: betrayal born from trauma is not about your worth. It is about someone else's wounds. Wounds that were never healed. Wounds that shaped their choices long before they ever crossed your path. Chapter 9. The Social Pressure Effect. Not all betrayals come from personal motives. Sometimes, people betray because of the world around them. They bend under pressure. They follow the crowd. They fear judgment, rejection, or the loss of status. This is the social pressure effect, a force that shapes behavior more strongly than most people realize. Human beings are social creatures. We want to belong. We want to be accepted. We want to avoid conflict and disapproval. When these desires grow stronger than our principles, betrayal becomes possible. It may not come from desire or fear alone, but from the influence of others. Social pressure begins with a simple idea: do what the group expects. People follow unspoken rules to fit in. They adjust their behavior to avoid being the outsider, and sometimes they betray their own values and the people they care about to protect their place in a group. Consider a common workplace scenario. A team begins gossiping about a colleague. At first you stay silent. You know it is wrong. But as the conversation continues, someone asks for your opinion. You feel the weight of expectation. You feel the fear of standing out. So you agree with the group, even though it goes against your values. Later you learn that your words reached the colleague. What began as social pressure turned into a subtle betrayal. This is how group influence works. It creates a sense of safety in conformity. People betray not because they dislike someone, but because the group sets a direction and they follow it. Another example comes from friendships. Imagine a friend group with strong opinions. They decide they no longer like a person you care about. You feel torn. You value your friend, but you also want to stay connected to the group. If you defend this person, you risk losing your standing. So you stay quiet, or worse, you join in. Not because you believe the criticism, but because you fear being excluded. Social pressure turns silence into betrayal. One of the strongest forms of social pressure appears in romantic relationships. People sometimes betray a partner not out of personal desire, but to maintain a certain image in front of friends. A man may act distant or dismissive because his social circle values independence over vulnerability. A woman may hide her true feelings because her friends encourage a strong unattached persona. In these situations, the relationship suffers because outside voices become louder than internal truth. To understand this deeper, let us look at a story. A college student named Priya had a close friend named Meera. They shared everything and supported each other through tough times. But when Priya joined a new social group, the group saw Meera as uncool. They teased Priya about their friendship. They made subtle comments that created doubt. Priya loved the acceptance the group offered. She felt included, seen, and admired. So she slowly stepped away from Meera. She stopped replying as often. She made excuses. Eventually she let the friendship fade to maintain her standing with the group. This betrayal was not rooted in malice. It came from the deep human need to belong. The social pressure effect also appears in families. Parents may pressure a child to take their side during conflicts. Siblings may influence one another to pick alliances. Family expectations can push someone to betray their partner, their friends, or even themselves. Many people lose relationships because they fear disappointing the people closest to them. Social pressure can also come from cultural norms. Some cultures value obedience over individuality. Some value appearances over authenticity. Some value silence over honesty. A person raised in such an environment may betray to meet expectations that feel larger than their own beliefs. They may feel trapped between what they truly want and what society teaches them is correct. Another powerful part of social pressure is the desire to avoid embarrassment. People sometimes betray simply to protect their image. A person may lie to avoid looking foolish in front of others. They may shift blame to avoid criticism. They may reveal secrets to appear knowledgeable or important. These choices come from the fear of humiliation, not from a lack of care. Peer pressure also affects moral decisions. In groups where dishonesty, cheating, or manipulation is normalized, betrayal becomes easier. People follow the group's behavior, even if it contradicts their inner values. They convince themselves that everyone else is doing it, so it must be acceptable. This mindset can lead to serious breaches of trust. The most important insight here is this: social pressure does not remove responsibility. Even when the group influences someone, the choice to betray still belongs to them. But understanding the role of pressure helps you see why a person who seemed loyal could suddenly act differently around others. So how can you protect yourself from betrayal born from social influence? First, pay attention to how someone behaves in different environments. Do they change their tone around friends? Do they become cold or distant in certain groups? Do their values shift depending on who is watching? Consistency reveals character. Inconsistency reveals vulnerability to pressure. Second, observe how someone talks about loyalty. Some people value relationships deeply when alone but abandon them when groups create tension. If a person's loyalty vanishes under pressure, it will likely vanish again in future situations. Third, trust patterns more than promises. A person who values approval too highly may struggle to stay true when the group pushes against them. This is not a judgment. It is a recognition of the psychological forces shaping their behavior. As we move to the next chapter, we will explore what happens when you ignore the early signs of betrayal. While social pressure affects others, your intuition affects you. Learning to trust that intuition is essential. But for now, remember this truth: people often betray not because they want to hurt you but because they want to be accepted. The desire to belong can be stronger than the desire to be loyal. Understanding this helps you navigate relationships with greater clarity and strength. Chapter 10. when you ignore the red flags. Betrayal rarely arrives without warning. Most of the time the signs are there long before trust is broken. They appear in small moments. A change in tone, a shift in behavior, a promise not kept, a feeling you cannot explain but cannot ignore. These are red flags, quiet signals that something is not right. Yet many people do ignore them, not because they are unaware, but because facing the truth feels painful. We want to believe the best about the people we care about. We want the story to make sense. We want the relationship to remain stable, so we overlook the concerns. We excuse the inconsistencies. We convince ourselves that the discomfort is temporary. But ignoring red flags does not prevent betrayal. It only delays the moment when the truth becomes impossible to hide. Red flags often appear as subtle patterns. A friend who shares your secrets by accident. A partner who dismisses your feelings. A colleague who takes credit for your work more than once. A family member who only shows up when they need something. None of these moments feel dramatic on their own, but together they paint a clear picture. Why do people ignore these signs? Because acknowledging a red flag forces you to confront emotional risk. It requires you to rethink your expectations. It requires difficult conversations. It requires the possibility of change or loss. Many people choose comfort over clarity, but that choice can lead to deeper pain later. Let us explore a story that illustrates this. A woman named Riley entered a relationship with someone who seemed warm and attentive. But early on, she noticed small signs. He avoided serious conversations. He often broke small promises. He became defensive whenever she asked simple questions. Riley felt uneasy, but she told herself he was stressed, tired, or distracted. Months later she discovered he had been hiding important parts of his life. The betrayal felt sudden, but the signs had been there from the beginning. Her intuition warned her, but she pushed it aside for the sake of hope. Intuition plays a powerful role in identifying red flags. Your mind may not have all the facts, but your body senses misalignment. A knot in the stomach, a sudden drop in energy, a feeling of tension when you hear someone's name. These signals are not random. They come from subconscious observation. Your intuition collects information long before your conscious mind understands it. Ignoring these signs is often tied to emotional investment. The more you care about someone, the harder it is to accept that they might hurt you. You remember their good qualities. You recall their kindness. You picture the future you imagined with them. This emotional attachment makes red flags feel like threats, not to the relationship but to your hope. So instead of addressing the warning signs, you quiet them. Another reason people ignore red flags is the fear of confrontation. Some individuals struggle with conflict. They worry that speaking up may cause arguments or distance. They fear being seen as demanding or unreasonable, so they internalize their concerns, hoping things will improve on their own. But silence rarely fixes broken patterns. Silence often enables them. Red flags also test boundaries. When someone crosses a boundary and you say nothing, they learn that the boundary does not matter. They learn that they can repeat the behavior. Over time, the betrayals grow larger because the smaller ones were never addressed. This does not mean you are responsible for their actions. It simply means that unspoken boundaries make it easier for unhealthy behavior to continue. Let us look at another example. A man named Carter had a friend who often borrowed money and repaid it late. At first, Carter justified it. He told himself the friend was going through a difficult time. But the pattern continued. The friend borrowed and avoided him. He made promises and broke them. Carter felt uneasy, but he avoided confrontation. Eventually the friend disappeared. After taking a larger sum, Carter realized that ignoring the early signs allowed the situation to grow into a painful betrayal. Recognizing red flags is not about being suspicious or judgmental. It is about honoring your intuition. It is about valuing your emotional well-being. It is about understanding that trust requires consistency. When someone shows you who they are repeatedly, your responsibility is not to change them. It is to acknowledge what you see. Here are some common red flags people overlook. A person who avoids accountability. A person who dismisses your boundaries. A person who changes behavior depending on the audience. A person who lies about small things. A person who plays the victim to avoid responsibility. A person who competes with you rather than supports you. A person who pressures you into silence or secrecy. Each of these behaviors hints at deeper issues, and when these issues remain unaddressed, betrayal becomes far more likely. So how do you respond when you notice red flags? First, pause. Reflect on what you observed without making excuses. Ask yourself if the behavior is part of a larger pattern. Second, communicate clearly. Share how the behavior affects you. Third, observe the response. Someone who values the relationship will listen and adjust. Someone who does not will become defensive or dismissive. Your reaction to red flags shapes the future. When you honor your intuition, you strengthen your emotional boundaries. You protect yourself from deeper harm. You recognize betrayal long before it reaches a breaking point. As we move to the next chapter, we will explore your role in recurring patterns of betrayal, not in a blaming way, but in a reflective one, because understanding how your boundaries, expectations, and choices shape relationships gives you the power to change the future. But for now, remember this truth: betrayal rarely comes without warning. It arrives after a series of signs that you were never meant to ignore. Chapter 11. Your role in the pattern. Betrayal does not happen in a vacuum. It involves two sides: the person who betrays, the person who experiences the betrayal. This chapter is not about blaming yourself. It is about understanding your place in the pattern. Your choices, your boundaries, your expectations, and your emotional habits. When you understand your role, you gain the power to break cycles that have repeated for years. Every relationship teaches you something about yourself. It reveals what you accept. It reveals what you ignore. It reveals what you believe you deserve. If you experience betrayal more than once, it does not mean you are flawed. It means something inside you is calling for awareness and change. Let us begin with a simple truth. People treat you according to what you allow. If your boundaries are unclear, people will test them. If your needs remain unspoken, people will overlook them. If your intuition is ignored, patterns will repeat. This is not weakness. It is a signal that there is room to grow. Consider a person named Holly. She prided herself on being generous and understanding. Whenever someone disappointed her, she forgave quickly. She feared conflict and wanted harmony, but her kindness became a doorway for others to take advantage of her. Friends relied on her without offering support in return. Partners expected her to compromise while they offered little effort. Holly experienced betrayal not because she lacked value, but because she lacked boundaries. Once she learned to say no, and to express her needs, the pattern began to shift. Your role in the pattern is often shaped by past experiences. If you grew up feeling responsible for others' emotions, you may tolerate behavior that drains you. If you learned to avoid conflict in your childhood home, you may remain silent when red flags appear. If you were taught that love must be earned, you may work too hard to keep relationships alive, even when they harm you. These learned behaviors create openings that people with unhealthy patterns may walk through. Another part of your role involves the expectations you set. Some people expect others to just know what they need. They assume loyalty. They assume respect. They assume care. But assumptions are fragile. When needs remain unspoken, disappointment grows silently. Communicating clearly is not demanding. It is essential. It protects you from the emotional gaps where betrayal begins. There is another layer to consider. Emotional repetition. People often recreate familiar experiences even when those experiences are painful. If trust was unstable in your early life, you may feel drawn to unpredictable people. If you were used to inconsistency, you may overlook red flags because chaos feels familiar. This is not a conscious choice. It is a pattern formed by your inner world. Recognizing it is the first step to changing it. Let us look at a story that reflects this idea. A man named Daniel repeatedly entered friendships with people who dominated conversations and ignored his needs. He felt drained and unseen. But he believed this was normal. Growing up, Daniel had a parent who spoke over him and dismissed his thoughts. His mind associated one-sided relationships with love. This unconscious blueprint shaped his adult choices. Each betrayal he experienced felt familiar, almost expected. When he finally recognized the pattern, he began seeking relationships where his voice mattered. His world changed when he changed his choices. Your role in the pattern also includes how you respond to early signs of mistreatment. Do you minimize the behavior? Do you forgive without accountability? Do you take on the responsibility of fixing the relationship alone? These responses, though well-intentioned, teach others how to treat you. This chapter invites you to reflect with honesty and compassion. Ask yourself, do you give more than you receive? Do you avoid difficult conversations? Do you hope people will change without changing your boundaries? Do you stay in relationships longer than you should? Do you ignore your intuition because you fear losing someone? These questions are not meant to judge you. They are meant to illuminate the areas where your power lives. Recognizing your patterns is not weakness. It is maturity. It is the moment you step out of unconscious cycles and step into awareness. Another important insight is this. Your forgiveness is a strength, but forgiveness without boundaries becomes self-sacrifice. Your empathy is a gift, but empathy without discernment becomes vulnerability. Your loyalty is admirable, but loyalty without limits becomes an invitation for mistreatment. You cannot control other people's actions. You cannot change their wounds or their motives, but you can control what you allow in your life. You can control how you respond. You can control what you accept and what you walk away from. This is where your true power lies. When you understand your role in the pattern, something begins to shift. You stop taking betrayal as proof of your inadequacy. You stop clinging to relationships that drain you. You stop making excuses for behavior that crosses your boundaries. Instead, you begin to choose people who show consistency, respect, and emotional maturity. As we move into the next chapter, we will explore how to rebuild after betrayal, how to heal, how to regain trust in yourself, and how to move forward with strength. But before we go there, hold on to this truth. Awareness is the key that unlocks change. When you recognize your patterns, you reclaim your power. And when you reclaim your power, betrayal loses its ability to repeat in your life. Chapter 12. The Path to Healing and Strength. Healing after betrayal is not a straight line. It is a journey with quiet steps, emotional pauses, and moments of revelation. Betrayal wounds the heart because it disrupts your sense of safety. It shakes the ground you trusted. It forces you to face a truth you were not prepared for. But healing is possible, and with healing comes strength. A deeper, clearer strength than you had before. The first step in healing is acceptance. Not acceptance of the betrayal itself, but acceptance of the reality. Denial keeps the wound open. Trying to make sense of what cannot be changed keeps you stuck in confusion. Acceptance is the moment you say, "This happened. It hurt. And now I choose to move forward." This statement does not erase the pain, but it frees you from the cycle of trying to undo the past. After acceptance comes reflection. Reflection is gentle. It is honest. It is looking at the situation without judgment. You examine what happened, what you felt, and what you learned. You see the event not only through the lens of pain, but through the lens of growth. This reflection is not blame. It is clarity. It helps you understand what needs to change within you and around you. Healing also requires emotional release. Betrayal creates a storm of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion, disappointment, disbelief. These emotions cannot be buried. They must be expressed. Some people express through writing, some through conversations with trusted friends, some through counseling, some through quiet moments of solitude. The method does not matter. What matters is that you allow the emotions to move through you. Releasing them is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. Another part of healing is reclaiming your self-worth. Betrayal often creates a false belief that something is wrong with you, that you were not enough, that you should have seen it coming. These beliefs are illusions created by pain. Your worth is not determined by someone else's choices. Your value does not decrease because someone failed to honor it. Healing requires reminding yourself of this truth again and again, until it becomes rooted in your heart. Forgiveness is a part of healing, but it is not a requirement to begin. Forgiveness does not mean you approve of what happened. It does not mean the relationship must continue. Forgiveness simply means you release the emotional hold the event has on you. You stop allowing the betrayal to occupy your thoughts. You choose peace over resentment. But forgiveness takes time, and that time is different for everyone. Do not rush it. Do not force it. Let it unfold naturally as your inner strength rises. Let us look at a story that reflects the healing journey. A man named Jonah discovered that someone he trusted deeply had deceived him. The betrayal shook his confidence. At first he tried to ignore the pain, but it followed him everywhere. He eventually began writing about his feelings. Each page became a release. As he wrote, he saw patterns he had never noticed before. He recognized his own silence, his own hopes, his own strength. Over time, the betrayal no longer defined him. It became a chapter in his life. Meaningful, painful, but not permanent. He healed not by forgetting the event, but by understanding himself more deeply. Another important part of healing is rebuilding trust in yourself. Betrayal often damages self-trust more than trust in others. You may question your judgment. You may wonder why you did not see the signs. You may fear making the same mistake again. But healing teaches you that your intuition is powerful. It shows you that you can learn, grow, and choose differently. Rebuilding trust in yourself comes from listening to your inner voice with respect and confidence. Setting boundaries is another essential step. Boundaries are not walls. They are guidelines that protect your emotional well-being. They define how much you give, how much you accept, and what you refuse to tolerate. Boundaries do not push people away. They invite the right people in. People who respect you. People who value honesty. People who can meet you with the same integrity you offer. Healing also involves reconnecting with things that bring you joy. Pain narrows your world. Joy expands it again. Spend time with people who uplift you. Engage in activities that nourish your spirit. Allow your life to slowly regain color and warmth. Healing is not only about removing the darkness, it is about letting the light return. One of the final stages of healing is perspective. With time you begin to see the betrayal differently, not as a defining moment, but as a turning point. Not as something that broke you, but something that revealed your resilience. You realize that the experience taught you about your values, your patterns, and your strength. It helped you grow into someone more aware, more grounded, and more capable of protecting your heart. Healing does not mean forgetting. Healing means remembering without pain. It means understanding the lesson without reliving the wound. It means carrying the wisdom forward while leaving the weight behind. As we reach the end of this chapter, there is one truth to hold close. Healing is not the end of the story. Healing is the beginning. It is the point where pain transforms into clarity, where confusion turns into insight, where the betrayal that once felt like an ending becomes the doorway to a stronger, wiser version of yourself. In the next and final chapter, we will explore the deeper wisdom that emerges after healing, the wisdom that helps you live with clarity, trust, and confidence for the rest of your life. Conclusion. The truth behind every betrayal. Betrayal is one of the most painful experiences a person can face. It disrupts your sense of trust. It shakes your confidence. It forces you to question your judgment, your relationships, and sometimes even your identity. But as painful as betrayal is, it also carries a deeper message, a message that becomes clear only when the heart begins to heal. The truth behind every betrayal is this: people act from their own inner world, not yours. Their choices reflect their wounds, their fears, their insecurities, their values, and their unmet needs. Their actions are shaped by emotions they cannot regulate, patterns they do not recognize, and pressures they do not know how to escape. Betrayal is not a statement about your worth. It is a reflection of their limits. Throughout this book we explored the many forces that drive betrayal: fear, impulse, insecurity, pride, manipulation, pressure, unhealed trauma, misaligned values, and the patterns that repeat when you ignore your intuition. Each of these forces reveals something important. Betrayal is complex, but it is never random. And here is the deeper truth. Betrayal teaches you what you need to see, even when you do not want to see it. It reveals the true nature of a relationship. It exposes the difference between words and actions. It highlights the boundaries you must strengthen. It awakens the parts of you that need healing. In this way, betrayal becomes both an ending and a beginning. You learn that trust is not something given blindly. It is something earned through consistency. You learn that intuition is not a feeling to ignore. It is your internal compass, guiding you long before facts appear. You learn that your worth is not shaped by someone's failure to honor it. It remains intact, even when others cannot see it. And you learn that strength grows in the spaces where your heart has been tested. The truth behind betrayal is not meant to harden you. It is meant to clarify you. It helps you see people with more awareness. It helps you make wiser choices. It helps you protect your emotional well-being without building walls around your heart. Healing does not make you colder. It makes you wiser. It makes you more aligned with the relationships that truly deserve you. Let us look at one final reflection. Every person you meet carries a story. Some have learned to love. Some have learned to fear. Some have healed. Some are still searching for themselves. Betrayal shows you who can walk with you into your future and who must remain in your past. It separates the temporary from the lasting. It separates the genuine from the unstable. And it opens the path toward relationships built on respect, growth, and truth. You have walked through each chapter of this book with openness. You have explored the psychology behind betrayal and the forces that shape human behavior. You have examined your patterns, your intuition, and your strength. Now you stand at a new point. A point where you can move forward with clarity and confidence. The final truth is this: you are not defined by the betrayal you experienced. You are defined by how you rise from it. You are defined by how you heal. You are defined by how you reclaim your voice, your boundaries, and your power. Betrayal may change you, but it does not diminish you. It refines you. It strengthens you. It prepares you for a life lived with deeper understanding, deeper wisdom, and deeper courage. This is the truth behind every betrayal. It breaks what was fragile. It reveals what was hidden, and it builds a stronger version of you. One who honors intuition, values peace, and chooses relationships that align with your true worth. As you close this book, take a moment. Breathe. Feel the strength within you now. The journey continues, but you move forward with new eyes, a wiser heart, and a deeper sense of who you are. The story does not end with betrayal. It begins with your transformation.